Bag abandoned at Mexican border contains the most heartbreaking cargo. U.S. Border Patrol agents have a pretty tough job. These men and women regularly put their lives on the line in defense of their country. And more often than not, they're forced to make difficult, life-changing decisions on the fly. With so much to keep them on their toes, you can bet these individuals have seen and done it all. However, even years of experience couldn't prepare two Texas officers when they came across a suspicious-looking piece of luggage left behind at the border. As they opened the mysterious bag and peered inside, they realized they now had a new mission on their hands. Texas Rio Grande border is no stranger to smugglers, and over the years, border agents have seen their fair share of strange cargo. But in August 2018, folks attempted to bring one particularly unusual item across the river undetected. While out on patrol, two agents from Brownsville, Texas, spotted three individuals lingering on the Mexican side of the river. The trio tried to look inconspicuous, but the sharp-eyed agents saw right through their charade. The officers approached, and as they did, the trio knew they'd been made. Caught red-handed trying to cross the border, the individuals hightailed it back to Mexico, leaving their possessions behind. It was a typical find for a border agent: water jugs, shoes, and a few hastily packed bags. But there was one piece of luggage that the officers found themselves returning to again and again: a black duffel. Unable to shake their suspicions, the agents unzipped the bag and tossed the flap open. One peek inside told them everything they needed to know about the attempted border crossing. This wasn't a bid for a new start, it was a smuggling. And what was it that was being smuggled? Well, none other than a tiger cub, likely just a few months old. The animal lay unconscious in the duffel, but fortunately it was alive. Without a moment to lose, the agents grabbed the young tiger and carried him. They then made a beeline for the nearest town, hoping they weren't too late to save the helpless cub. Feeling that a veterinary hospital wouldn't be equipped to handle such an animal, the officers took the cub to Brownsville Gladys Porter Zoo. Hopefully, they figured the wildlife specialist there could nurse the baby tiger back to health. The cub was out cold when the zoo's medical team finally got him onto the exam table, and they feared that the smugglers might have drugged the animal to sedate him for the trip. Luckily, they could stabilize him, and the little guy soon came to. Not long after word of the cub's discovery got out, Border Patrol Communications Director Irma Champa reported the tiger was doing great and was expected to make a full recovery. Once healed, the cub would be placed in a zoo. But the attempted smuggling of tiger cubs like this one is something that the U.S., unfortunately, has become quite familiar with. All along the country's southern border, exotic animal trafficking has become an epidemic over the last few decades. The illegal wildlife trade is a pretty big business, says Dan Crum, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Agent. The U.S. is sometimes a destination and transit point, and the border along California and Mexico happens to be one of those flashpoints for trafficking. In fact, more than a quarter of the nearly 50,000 black market animal shipments seized at U.S. points of entry between 2005 and 2014 came from Latin America. Most of these shipments were comprised of birds and reptiles, but big cats like lions and tigers were also discovered. Amazingly, the Brownsville recovery marked the first time in over 20 years that a live tiger had been discovered at the area of the border. Because tigers are relatively large, they're much more difficult to smuggle and worth that much more to the buyer. It's also for this reason that tigers are smuggled primarily as cubs. Many wildlife experts believe that once a baby tiger has grown past a certain point, smugglers will simply dispose of them rather than bring them to market. By 16 weeks, cubs are too big. They're crawling and scratching and biting, says Carol Baskin, founder of the Florida sanctuary Big Cat Rescue. But there's no legitimate secondary market for all those cubs that can't be used any longer. This fear is especially prominent in Asia, where large numbers of adult tigers are killed every year to satisfy the demand for teeth, bones, and other parts. A highly illegal practice, these killings are primarily responsible for the Asian tiger population's significant drop to just 3,500. Surprisingly, the US currently boasts the world's largest tiger population at about 5,000, according to the World Wildlife Fund. However, the vast majority of these animals are born in captivity, not smuggled into the country. But for every handful of tigers in zoos and sanctuaries, there are plenty of big cats being kept in unsavory conditions by private owners. Some are even showcased in cruel roadside attractions, where tourists can pay to cuddle and take pictures with them. Thankfully, measures have been taken across the country to put an end to the exploitation of animals. Following a 2017 sting dubbed Operation Jungle Book, 200 animals were rescued from this kind of abuse, including lizards, songbirds, and even a king cobra.